Good morning, everyone. I welcome the judges on behalf of Geetaratan International Business School. Thank you both for your kind presence. Starting with the debate competition, a very good morning to everyone respected Dr. Gurjeet Singh, respected Advocate Anil Mehta, and participants from various law institutions of India. I, Ashid Ral, welcome you all to the third National Virtual Debate Competition 2020 organized by Center for Legal Studies at Geetaradan International Business School. Introducing the judges, we have the first judge as Dr. Gurjeet Singh. Dr. Gurjeet Singh, being an LLM PhD, has its areas of specialization in law and emerging technology, international trade laws, telecommunication laws, protection of plant varieties and traditional knowledge, public international law and private international law, and much more. He has the teaching experience as a research fellow at National Law University, Bhopal, and as assistant professor in USSLS, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University from 27 September 2006 onwards. He has chaired the session at National Seminar on Panchayat Raj at National Law University, Delhi on April 25, 2017. He has many paperwork under his name for the issues of regulating copyright violation in social media, Indian legal response at Oxford University, e-contracting, jurisdiction issues in cyberspace, and many more in the list. He also has been the coordinator at the Placement Committee, University School of Law and Legal Studies, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. We are highly delighted to have you, sir. Coming on to the next judge, we have respected Advocate Mr. Anil Mehta. He is currently working as the Deputy Advocate General, DAG, for State of Haryana in Punjab and Haryana High Court at Chandigarh. He is also representing the Honorable Chief Minister of Haryana in a program called Connect to CM, where the children and the youth from the age group of 16 to 35 have the privilege to directly connect with the Chief Minister. As a litigation lawyer, Mr. Mehta makes professional appearances in Supreme Court and other All India judicial forums, including Indian High Court and more particularly Punjab and Haryana High Court at Chandigarh. His areas of expertise include international and domestic contracts, international and domestic arbitrations, alternative dispute resolution, commercial suits, disputes pertaining to transfer of property, corporate litigation, matrimonial litigation, white-collar crimes, constitutional and writ litigation. We are highly obliged to have you here, sir. Thank you both of you for your kind presence, and I would like to specially thank the respected judges to spare their precious time for us. It is requested to all the participants not to leave the virtual debate room and to stay here till their turn comes. Center for Legal Studies at Geetaratan International Business School encourage healthy discussion and exchange of ideas among students and provide them the platform to voice out their opinions on current national as well as global issues, exploring various solutions to the crisis. Before moving forward for the preliminary round, first session, I would like to present the general guidelines and working of the virtual debate competition. In this virtual debate competition organized by CLS Guild, number 1, there will be draw of lots to decide the order in which the teams will be coming up to enter the virtual room to present their debate. During the debate, time left will be shown on the screen at 2 intervals. The first interval will be when 3 minutes will be left, and the second interval will be when the time will get over. The total time allotted for each team is only 8 minutes, and the team shall decide the time limit for speaker 1 and speaker 2. But the minimum time for one speaker is only 2 minutes. Speaker 1 will debate for the motion and Speaker 2 will debate on against the motion. Rebuttals will be included in 8 minutes given to each team. The team score will be calculated by adding both the team members' individual score. The language for the debate competition shall be English only. Use of webcam or face camera while speaking is mandatory for all the participants. Reading from any written document is prohibited, and if it is observed by any of the judge or the organizer, then the teams shall be disqualified. Usage of any abusive language, obscene language, shall implicate immediate disqualification of the candidature. Center for Legal Studies at Geetharathan International Business School shall have sole discretion to access penalties or to disqualify teams for any failure in abiding by any of the foregoing rules. All team members must refrain from disclosing their identity for their institution at any time and in any manner during the entire competition. Non-compliance with these rules shall result in immediate disqualification of the team. The decision of CLS Gibbs in this regard shall be final and binding. I would like to repeat that during the debate competition, there will be 2 slides that will be shown to the team members. First, at the interval when the 3 minutes will be left, and second, when the time will get over. Now, moving to the debate session, I would like to draw the cards for the first slot. And according to this, there are team members. The first team comes up to be 3NDC064. The first team coming up to be is 3NDC064. For the second slot, we will be taking out teams, that is 3NDC063. Third, for the third interval, it will be 3NDC065. For the fourth team to come in slot 1, we have team 3NDC076. Now, for the fifth one, and the last is 3NDC079. I again repeat, for the first one, we have 3NDC064. For the second, we have 3NDC063. Third, we have team 3NDC065. Fourth, we have team 3NDC076. And fifth, we have 3NDC079. So, Speaker 1, as we know, according to the rules of the debate competition, Speaker 1 will be debating for the motion and Speaker 2 will debate against the motion. Now I would like to seek the permission of our respected judges to start with the first team.
Yeah.
Okay, so team 3NDC064, your time starts now. I would request the judges to please kindly wait because of the connection problems. Due to some issues, we are not able to connect with the first team, that is 064. I would request the second team to start with the debate competition, that
063.
is 3NGC 063.
Please
All
raise
the
your
best
hands.
to the participants.
Hello. Hello. 063B. Please turn on a video. I repeat 063B. Please turn on a video.
I would
Yes.
request team 3NDC 063 to kindly start with the debate competition, and all the best to both the participants.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, 063B. Where is your partner? A063.
Hello,
हेलो कॉन्शियसली बोलते कोई ध्यान करके बैठो हितांशु हेलो 063 कैन यू हियर मी
hello.
हेलो कैन यू हियर मी दूसरा कोई होगा दोनों ने यूज करके हो सकता हेलो कैन यू हियर मी Suryansh Natta, can you hear me? Suryansh Natta? Can you hear me, team 063? 063 A, अच्छा ये A आ गया, B आ गया।
ये भी है।
हाँ, इसने लिख B रखा था।
ये है
A का लिखा है। Hi 063, where is your partner? Gitanshu? Gitanshu, can you hear me? Gitanshu? Gitanshu, your mic is on. You can speak. No, we are not able to hear you, Gitanshu.
I would request the team member for the second team, that is 063, to kindly wait for
Please
his
rejoin
partner.
063.
And I would request the third team, that is 3NDC 065. The third team, 3NDC 065, to kindly enter and start with the debate competition.
उसके बाद 063 आ रहा है।
हाँ जी, सुबह ये भी आया था 063 वाले थे। ये प्रोजेक्ट रहा
18 कहाँ से आ गया? ये देखो फिर 18 यहाँ पे बजे।
ये 2 बजे की ऐसा कुछ होता है। Ashi, can you please say the next team once more?
The next team, the third team, will be 3NDC 065.
She's not coming.
नेम लिख के था ना 1 2 3
Gone. So please go to the next team. Team 065. I think will not be able to join. Please proceed to the next team.
Okay. Moving to the next team, that is 3NDC 076.
76. So I'm really sorry, but can you proceed to the next team?
The fifth team, that is 3NDC 079.
Okay. Team, so team 3NDC 079, please raise your hands. Yes, team code 069. So the team code 3NDC 079, please you may begin.
नेम से आ गया। कॉल नेम तो नेम के लिए
Am I visible?
Please, no, you both are not visible. Please turn your videos on.
Wait, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I visible and
Yes, you are visible. Please tell 79, the other partner, to turn on the video.
yeah, wait a
That
second.
is 079A.
Yeah, wait a second.
ना कि रिक्वेस्ट टू स्पीक उससे ओके 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 करते जा ऑन करके तो उसके बाद रूम में एंटर कर जाएगी फटाफट कर ले ज्वाइन
She has entered the room. I'm really sorry. She just has to turn her video on. She is in the room.
हेलो
Yes, you are audible. Turn on your video also.
आवाज
Yeah, please turn your video on 079A. We cannot see you right now.
I request both participants of Team 079 to please switch on their cameras, start their videos, and please proceed with the debate competition.
Yes, she's turning on her video. Wait a while.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. 079A, you are audible. And
Hello, am I
079B, yeah, both of you are audible.
Hello, hello,
Both,
am I audible?
yeah, both of you are
Yes,
audible.
you are audible.
Hello,
Yes,
I'm
you
not
are
able to hear
audible.
anything. Hello, am I audible?
For the 079 team, all the judges are requested, please note down that the first team, those who are presenting, they are 079. And it will start with 079A for the motion, and then 079B, though she has joined us by her name, but her code is 079B.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, now you are audible. Can you hear us?
Hello, hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
I'm not able to hear anything.
079,
Hello, am I audible?
इसका फोन नंबर है 079 का, इसको कॉल करो.
I'm contacting her. Wait a while. I'm contacting her.
Hello,
I would like to inform both the participants, participant A and participant B, that you both are audible as well as visible. Please start with your debate competition.
I cannot hear anything.
No problem. I think 79B. Please tell her your partner to speak on the issue. No problem.
Yes, sir.
She
I
can't hear
have
us. I think
told
you
her.
can hear
Okay,
us.
I think I will start speaking then. In the words of Bennett Coleman, every event in democracy is important as they help young people learn about citizenship. With every passing day in a complex yet vibrant democracy of ours, with the constitution being the cementing factor between the government and the people who elect their representatives, the recent event of alterations of the citizenship laws of the country, in my opinion, are nothing but a regular process of evolving laws with the demand of time. Bearing in mind the process of legal jurisprudence, a very good morning to the esteemed judges and my worthy opponents. I, speaker number 79, shall present my view in favor of the motion set for today. I will convince you all that the constitutional validity of the recent Citizenship Act holds solid foundation without legal lacuna. To lay foundation briefly, CAA provides for the fast-track naturalization for the non-Muslim religious minorities from the three neighboring countries, namely Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh, if they arrived in India before 31st December 2014 and have been here for 5 years. For them, as of 31st December 2019, they are eligible for immediate naturalized citizenship. Moreover, there is to be an all-national population register to identify doubtful citizenship, and thereafter a process of carrying out natural register of citizens which will pronounce final judgment on the status of such doubtful citizens who have insufficient documentation of their status. In my opinion, legally speaking, CAA is perfectly valid and lawful and constitutional. Under Article 246 of the Constitution, the Parliament has been vested with the power to make laws with respect to any matters in List 1, which is part of the 7th schedule, whereby item number 17 deals with citizenship and naturalization of aliens. Therefore, only Parliament has got the sovereign power to legislate on citizenship. Article 14, the shield of democracy and sword of downtrodden, calls for equality before law and equal protection for law. But the Supreme Court has delivered around 20 judgments whereby they held that if there is reasonable classification of groups who form a class by themselves, then the legislation will be valid. Here, a prosecuted victimized group based on faith of 6 religious countries, namely from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh, which are declared Islamic countries, from that reasonable classification. Therefore, this CAA does not relate to any Indian, let alone be Muslims. Neither does it even categorize in revoking the citizenship to the already existing citizens. The history of the nation is enough to prove that such move is not novel. Rather positively inspired by Mrs. Gandhi, who gave citizenship to Hindus who exiled from Uganda, and Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, who gave citizenship in case of Tamilians from Sri Lanka. The process of granting citizenship in India is presently based on same principle which is followed in almost all countries governed by the rule of law. Citizenship is acquired by birth, descent, naturalization or acquisition of territories. The primary ground on which CAA is being challenged is its 2-point violation and abuse of the right to equality enshrined in the Constitution. Multiple petitions have contended that it is not only religious-based discrimination arbitrary and unreasonable, but that the amendment is also under-inclusive. Thus, it is important to understand a few legal points here. Firstly, no constitutional court can question the intention or motive of any government in enacting any legislation. Consequently, the constitutionality of any lawfully enacted legislation have to be first presumed by a constitutional court before scrutinizing it. Second, the mere possibility that a law may be abused does not render it unconstitutional expressly, and thereby under inclusivity of the statute does not become a ground for challenging its validity. Any such classification, therefore, does not need to be scientifically pure and all-embracing. A legislative is perfectly empowered to differentiate and classify between dissimilar groups, classes, batches, or categories. Evidently, thus, many of the grounds presented before the Supreme Court are liable to be rejected at sight. Coming back to the question on why CAA individually, people can be considered for citizenship, as more than 2,000 Pakistanis have been given citizenship, but the whole group of minorities who have been persecuted only because of faith needed the CAA. It's the fact that there were 7 lakh minorities in Afghanistan, now only 500 left. What happens to Hindus, rape, murder, forced conversions in Pakistan is too well known. Go to Indore, to Jodhpur, to Majnu Ka Tila, to Delhi to see their culture for yourself. Therefore, the entire group of these communities are being given a platform of citizenship. The law provides for that. Individual asylum protection is always there. One particular provision is rarely talked of the context of Article 25, which provides for all persons, not just citizens, all right to freely profess, practice, and propagate religion. Therefore, they have right after having coming to India. I clearly fail to understand on how a law which is designed to confer the benefit on an identified class of persons and which is identification based on rational criterion can be condemned as being discriminatory on the ground that the legislation would have created a wider class, arrived by applying a broader criterion for identifying the class of those who would benefit by legislation. Classification on the basis of religion is not per se unconstitutional. It is worth reminding ourselves that a constitution confers special rights upon the members of minority religious communities in India. If the law is broader, allowed members of all religious communities from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan to migrate in India, we could do away with all our borders. At the end, before I rest my case, I would like to conclude that the polarization between the caste and the religion is at old age as the notion of the modern India. I also find a governing polarization between those who have enjoyed the perquisites of power over decades and between those who have replaced them. Add to this mix the fact of certain ideologies which are but dust on the bookshelves of the political history in our country of their origin continue to be romanced by the intellectuals, some of whom dominate civil society and civil discourse. All this create fertile ground for protest and aggressive debates. And when it comes to romanticizing such movements, perhaps the feeling is why they let truth spoil a good history. Thank you.
I request the organizing committee to please take the cognizance of the disturbance that was created, as you have displayed that there are only 3 minutes left. Am I audible?
Hello. Yeah. I'm sorry, but that cannot be considered. I'm really sorry.
It was technical glitch and we were not even aware of the process, you know.
Yeah, we cannot help it. I'm really sorry. The time is paused right now. Please begin soon.
I request the respected judges to please take this in notice. History of the migration is the history of the world. You can manage it, but you cannot control it. A very good morning to the esteemed judges and my opponents. I, speaker number 079B, shall present my views against the motion on the topic CAA. Is it constitutionally valid or a threat to the secular nature of our constitution? The CAA is not brazenly discriminatory, unequal, or unconstitutional, but also discriminatory against its own people who have been called as others on the basis of religious belief. It is tragic that the law in its intent and wording singles out a community for hostile treatment, wherein the Constitution guarantees equality and no discrimination based on religion, creed, caste, gender, or color. The basic structure of the Constitution of India defines the secular character. As held by the Supreme Court in Keshwananda Bharati versus Union of India 1971, Supreme Court ordered the Parliament that it has the authority and right to enact, but the enactment should not violate or undermine the basic structure of the Constitution. As the bill addresses the old age problem of persecution of minorities, indeed, it is a welcoming step, but it should not violate the very principle of our Constitution. I also agree with the fact that India cannot be the Dharamshala, but in case if it tries to be, it should be in compliance with our Constitution. If we start doing what others are doing, then where is the essence of true India? Despite existence of cultural rainbow, our nation is still bound together. This is indeed a testament in the world that is proclaimed and achieved by our Constitution. The important argument against this CAB is that it will not extend to those persecuted in Tibetan Autonomous Region, Myanmar and Sri Lanka, from where Tibetan, Buddhist, Muslim and Tamils have staying in the country as refugees. The Tibetan Buddhists and Muslims find no mention despite the fact that they have been here for the past 60 years. The law carefully avoids the word persecuted minorities, but the statement of object and reason says many persons belonging to Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Parsi, Jain or Christian community have faced persecution based on religion in these three countries. The CAB creates a category of people based on religion. The law also fails to allow Shia and Ahmadiyya Muslims to apply for citizenship because they are excluded from this on the basis of religion. It is an act of showing that Indian Muslims are the inferiors in new India. If protecting persecuted minorities is the objective, the classification may fail the test of constitutionality as it excludes the people on the basis of religion. In 1947, one red cliff divided two nations, and today many invisible red cliffs stand in existence. Post the passage of CAB, the northeastern states of India are grim. As per the Intelligence Bureau records, there will be around 30,000 immediate beneficiaries of the Act. Is our economy and the government ready for the same burden? Religion can never be the basis of granting citizenship to the people, as it was not the case while drafting our constitution. As the great poet Rahat Indori said, जो आज साहिबे मसनाद हैं कल नहीं होंगे, जो आज साहिबे मसनाद हैं कल नहीं होंगे, किराएदार है जाती मकान थोड़ी है, सभी का खून शामिल है यहाँ की मिट्टी में, सभी का खून शामिल है यहाँ की मिट्टी में, किसी के बाप का हिंदुस्तान थोड़ी है. Now it is our time to decide and stand united and avoid the formation of the similar state that was formed in 1947. So at the end, I request everyone, It is our time to stand united. Thank you.
I thank both the participants, and I would also like to inform you that because on your request of the connection problems that you faced in the starting of the debate competition, even after the time getting over, you got some extra time to complete all what you said. Thank you both of you. And now I would like the next team to please enter into the debate competition, and both of you, the fifth team, to please take an exit from this room. Thank you.
Hi. So team 063, both of please raise your hand, both of you. Team 063. Are both of you there? I can see I have entered one of you. Team 063, please raise your hand. Team 063B has joined. Team 063B.
Hello.
Can you turn? Yeah.
Yeah, this is
So,
63A. Am I
okay,
audible?
you're A. Okay. So has your partner can you call your partner up and tell him to join?
Yeah, sure. Can I click a picture of the screen and show her?
Definitely, definitely.
I would also like to draw the kind attention of the judges that the fifth team, the team 079, was the fifth team which was taken out from the draws, who represented first due to connection problems, and now it will be 063, the second team coming out of the draws.
I'm just calling her, okay?
Yeah, team code 063. Have you called them up?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's using from his mobile phone, and she's saying that there is no visible sign of the camera and microphone
So
logo
that will
on.
present after she joins the room.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, is that possible? She can join from a computer and not from a mobile.
I'm just asking her.
Yeah, please, yeah, please.
Hello, is it not possible to use participate from the phone?
It is possible, definitely possible. So I think so please tell her to join once more.
Sorry?
She will face a little complication, but tell her to join once more.
Okay.
Yeah, please join. Try to join. We have our next team, that is the team code 063 has.
Hello, sorry.
Please tell her to join soon.
I'm asking her, but she's saying that she's not getting the screen where we needed to verify it about the camera and audio verification. She's not saying that she cannot go to that screen actually.
I think so. Can you give her my number and tell her to call me?
Okay, I'm giving her your number.
It's in the chat box. I'll tell you once again. 844.
Listen. 844
791
844 791
99
844 791
double nine
9954.
54.
Yeah, I'm just telling her to call you. Hello, Snata. Call this number.
844 791
9954.
54. अच्छा, okay.
Hi, I have not. Yes, 063B has joined. She will be doing so. Uh, 068, can you call her once again and try to rejoin? She just joined and now she has disconnected. Can you call her up again and tell to follow the same process she did earlier?
Yes, sir, sure. Hello. She said that she joined before.
Yes, she was visible earlier, but now she's not. Okay, she's leaving now.
But I could not hear her,
I
or
have
she
her
also
just now.
said she could not hear herself or was not able to see herself on the camera, on the screen.
I have just entered her. Can she now see the option to turn her mic on and video on?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
she
she's
is.
not getting that screen. Mic and video on. She's not getting that screen. Should have it.
Okay, I'm really sorry. I think the time was only 11 till 11 a.m. and now due to the technical issues faced by our partner, we cannot continue further. I'm really sorry.
Can we go? Can we do it in another time slot?
No, that's not possible really. I'm really sorry. We have given you over 20 25 minutes. So now it's not possible for us to extend it further. I'm really sorry.
Can I just speak, or it's also not allowed? Both of us has to speak.
No, you cannot speak for both the parties. She has to do it for
Yeah.
herself. It has been mentioned in the rules and regulations that has been forwarded to you.
Can you just see like the I don't know, but she's not able to see that screen on the phone. And
So yeah, we are rejecting you. I'm really sorry. We are
I
disconnecting.
can try it on my phone and I can say what is the
No, no,
problem. Can it?
that's not possible. That's written in the rules specifically that both of you have to present. I'm really sorry.
No, I was asking that I could have checked by the phone and I could have said like what are the problems she's facing right now, and we could have
No,
done
I'm
it.
sure the time, specific, extensive
Okay.
time has been given to you guys. I've admitted her once again, but she's not admitting in the room. I've been doing it 3 4 times, but she's not coming. I'm
Okay.
really
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Thank you.
अब एंकर अपना उनको ऑन करने बोलो।
Now, starting with the second slot,
Okay, so Anchor, please move to slot 2. It's 11 a.m. now. Please move to slot 2 now. Please move to slot 2 now.
I would like to welcome all the participants from slot 2. Very good morning to everyone. Respected Dr. Gurjeet Singh, respected advocate Mr. Anil Mehta, and participants from various law institutions of India. I, Ashidral, welcome you all to the third National Virtual Debate Competition 2020 organized by Center for Legal Studies at Geetaratna International Business School. Introducing the judges, we have the first judge as Dr. Gurjeet Singh. Dr. Gurjeet Singh, being an LLM, PhD, has his areas of specialization in law and emerging technology, international trade laws, telecommunication laws, protection of plant varieties and traditional knowledge, public international law and private international law, and much more. He has the teaching experience or as a research fellow at National Law University Bhopal and as assistant professor in US LLS Guru Gobind Singh Infrastructure University from 27 September 2006 onwards. He also has been the coordinator and the placement committee, University School of Law and Legal Studies, Guru Gobind Singh Infrastructure University. We are highly delighted to have you here, sir. The second judge, being Mr. Advocate Anil Mehta, is currently working as the Deputy Advocate General (DAG) for State of Haryana in Punjab and Haryana High Court at Chandigarh. As a litigation lawyer, Mr. Mehta makes professional appearances in Supreme Court and all other India judicial forms, including Indian High Court and more particularly Punjab and Haryana High Court at Chandigarh. We are obliged to have you here, sir. Now, I would like to specially thank the respected judges to spare their precious time. Center for Legal Studies at Geetaratna International Business School encourage healthy discussion and exchange of ideas among students and provide them the platform to voice out their opinions on current national as well as global issues and exploring various solutions to the crisis. Before moving forward for the preliminary round, second session, I would like to represent the general guidelines and working for the virtual debate competition. In this virtual debate competition organized by the GIBS, there will be the draws of lots to decide the order in which the teams will be coming up to enter the virtual room to present their debate. During the debate, time left will be shown on the screen at two intervals. Firstly, when 3 minutes will be left, and secondly, when the time will get over. The total time allotted for each team will be 8 minutes, and the teams shall decide the time limit for the speaker 1 and speaker 2. But the minimum time for a speaker is 2 minutes only. Speaker 1 will debate for the motion, and speaker 2 will debate on against the motion. Rebuttals will be included in 8 minutes given to each team. The team score will be calculated by adding both the team members' individual scores. The language for the debate competition shall be English only. Use of any webcam or face camera while speaking is mandatory for every participant. Reading from any written document is prohibited, and if it is observed by any judge or the organization, then the teams shall be disqualified. Usage of any abusive language or obscene language shall implicate immediate disqualification of the candidature. Center for Legal Studies at Geetaratna International Business School shall have sole discretion to assess the penalties or to disqualify the teams for any failure in abiding by any of the foregoing rules. All team members must refrain from disclosing the identity for the institution at any time, used and in any manner during the entire competition. Non-compliance with this rule shall result in immediate disqualification of the team. The decision of CLS GIBS in this regard shall be final and binding. moving forward to the debate competition for the second round, second slot, I would like to take out the draws for the second one. The first team in that being team 3NDC013. The first team being 3NDC013. Now for the second slot, coming on to the second team, that is 3NDC077. 3NDC077. For the third one, the third team to be here, the draws will be for 3NDC070. The fourth being team 3NDC081. And the fifth being team 3NDC046. I would like to repeat, the first team will be 3NDC013. Second team will be 3NDC077. Third team will be 3NDC070. Fourth team will be 3NDC081. And the fifth team will be 3NDC046. So, Speaker 1 will debate for the motion and Speaker 2 will debate against the motion. So, I would like to seek the permission of the judges to start with the first team.
Yes, please.
Okay, starting with the first team, that is 013, I would like the participants to enter the room and start with their debate competition. All the best to both the participants.
Please turn your camera on. And where is your partner? Team code 077A.
He'll be joining. I think he joined the meeting.
No, I cannot see him right now. Please tell him to raise his hands once more if he has joined the meeting.
I know. See, your slot was from 10 to 11. Now slot that one is over now. But the connectivity issue and the
Yes, I can
documentation
see.
issue should be stopped from your side. That was made very clear in that part. Okay, and we have also avoided much turns to you.
Team code 077A. Can you hear me? Participant 077A. Please turn on. Yeah, great. So, judges, this is team 077A, the second team that was selected in the draw bronze.
Actually, the problem is we have the second.
Yeah, you may begin now. Team code
And now
077.
the
Yes, please start.
It says time over. Okay. So can we start with our arguments?
Yes.
Okay. The Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019 is perhaps the most controversial and misconstrued piece of legislation in recent history. This is primarily due to rumors circulated and the general lack of awareness accrued by the citizens of this country. The Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019 states that people are exempted if they are Hindu, Sikh, Parsi, Jain, Christian, or from the Buddhist community who entered India before December 31st of 2014 and are exempted from Section 3, Subsection 2 and Clause C of the Passports Entry to India Act 1920 and from the application of the provisions of the Foreigners Act 1946 or any rule or order made thereunder shall not be treated as illegal migrants as defined by the Citizenship Act of 1955. And the main objective of the legislation has to be put into relevance here for the amending act, for the framing of the said amending act, as the main reason why it was enacted was to save religious minorities from persecution from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh. While Pakistan and Afghanistan are Islamic states, the Supreme Court of Bangladesh adjudicated that though the word secular shall remain in its constitution, Bangladesh shall be an Islamic state. And the amending act is not violative of Article 14 since Article 14 permits reasonable classification and intelligible differentia. Reasonable classification is valid as long as there is reasonable rationale to the object of the legislation. And Article 14 is not, in its entirety, is not absolute since it permits certain exceptions like the Judicial Officers Protection Act or the Public Officers Protection Act, or how Article 361 extends immunity to the President and the state governors from the actions of the cabinet. The government of India, that is the Union government, has absolute control over expelling foreigners as they have full control over all the citizenship aspects, and the executive government has full control to choose who they can and who they cannot expel as foreigners. This is stated by the Supreme Court in Sabarananda Sonowal versus Union of India in 2005. And several aspects of citizenship, such as the subject to fulfillment of the Citizenship Act for entering India through this provision, has to be fulfilled from the enabling act of the relevant sections of the Citizenship Act. That will be done through the same process as anyone else will have to go through, and these religious minorities entered India after December 31st, 2014 shall have no special privilege conferred upon them whatsoever. The process of citizenship for naturalization or registration may be rigorous, perhaps a bit bureaucratic, but is absolutely not arbitrary. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes, very much.
Yes. So my code is 3NDC077B, and I'll be speaking against the motion, concreting the fact that the Citizenship Amendment Act is unconstitutional in nature. Now, considering the fact that the affirmative, my counterpart, has stated the relevant legal aspects of it, along with something that he stated, that is the intelligible differentia and the rational nexus that exists between this differentia made along with the object of the state. I would like to point out that this particular reasonability test was held first in this particular case, that's the the state of West Bengal versus the Anwar Ali Sarkar in the year 1952. Now, in this case, intelligible differentia was upheld 2 years after the Republic was born. For the same reason why what the constitution makers envisaged. They felt that if there's a right to equality, only equal persons can be treated equally in front of law and not unequal persons, which is why in order to uplift certain sections of the society which are deemed to be not equal, the provisions were made in subsequent articles in Article 15 and 16. And this was purely for upliftment and not causing detriment to any particular section of the society. Now, as far as the question of intelligible differentia is concerned, I would like to rightly point out that intelligible differentia in this case is not available, considering the fact that, as the affirmative stated, this is regarding religiously persecuted minorities, which means that you're bifurcating on the basis of religion. I would like to draw certain questions over here. First of all, if 3 neighboring countries are allowed people from 3 neighboring countries are allowed for citizenship, then why only these 3 countries? Why not other neighboring countries like Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Nepal? And second of all, if this is based on religious persecution, then why not Sri Lanka? Even Sri Lanka has a state religion, just like other countries, other Islamic countries, and the Hazaras are being violated over there. And first of all, the state does not identify or recognize the fact that religion is not monolithic in nature. A religion can have further major and minority sects, just like the Ahmadiyas in Pakistan who are being violated, just like the Ismaili sects of Shia religion in Pakistan. In addition to this, I would like to also state that if the argument is based on a pre-partition, post-partition problem, then I would like to rightly point out that that is not the case. If that was the case, then why is Afghanistan added and Myanmar excluded, considering that Burma was a part of pre-partition India until the mid-1930s? In addition to this, I would like to also comment on the basic structure doctrine, which has been under contention in this particular case. Now that I would like to point out that the basic structure which has been laid down categorically in cases. For example, it was first laid down in the Keshwananda Bharti case in the year 1974. Further, it was also held in this particular case, that is the S.R. Bommai, where the question of secularism was tested. Now, in this particular case, Justice, I believe it was Justice P.B. Sawant, who clearly laid down that a state might have some attitude towards a particular religion or faith. However, such attitude cannot encroach upon the secular activities of the state. In addition, it has also been reaffirmed that religion is strictly prohibited from encroaching upon the secular activities of the state. In addition to which, I believe secularism and equality are not the basic structure or not the only basic structures which are being violated. In addition to this, even fraternity is being violated, as held in the S.R. Bommai case itself, where Justice P.B. Sawant clearly laid down the observation made by Ambedkar, in which Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had stated that India is a plural country with multiple religions and faiths. And in such a country, it is necessary that secularism is the bastion for building fraternity and amity with the dignity of an individual, which is also being violated in this particular case. And dignity of an individual as an outcome of a violation of secularism, violation of dignity, has also been reaffirmed as per various international charters such as the UDHR, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And the question of dignity has also been reaffirmed in a recent case, that's the Aadhar judgment, where Justice Sikri lays down a test or the scope of dignity, where he lays down that there are three essentials for retaining the dignity of a person. First, that it must retain the intrinsic value of a person. Second, there should be autonomy. And third, the community, the dignity of the community should also be respected. And this is absolute. However small the community is, the Supreme Court in multiple judgments has stated that even if a community is minuscule, Article 14, 19, and 21 are always conferred upon them. Now, in addition to this, I would like to state that the test laid down in this Aadhar judgment, 1 and 3 are being clearly violated. And the second one is being violated as an outcome of the violation of the first and the second. Lastly, in the words of Immanuel Kant, I would like to state that equality is something that is beyond price and hence absolute, though it is subject to reasonable restrictions. In this case, there is no reasonable restriction, and at the same time, there's no intelligible differentia, because we're treating one section of persecuted minority higher when compared to another section. And this does not satisfy reasonable differentia because it is not reasonable. You cannot treat one person more persecuted or less persecuted. And with that, I would like to conclude my statement by also stating that the whole object of this religious persecution, which has not even been mentioned in the Amendment Act, is a figment of imagination of Mr. Hari Salve. In addition to that, I'd like to always also conclude my statements stating that what the state tries to achieve out of this particular legislation is what it feels that there is a solution at the end of the road is completely a mirage. Because at the end of the road, there's only the death of the basic structure as well as death of constitutional rule within the country. With that, I would like to conclude my statements. Thank you. In addition, if the participants could request an extra minute for rebuttal.
I'm really sorry, that's not possible.
All right.
I thank both the participants of team 077, and I would request the third team, that is 3NDC 070, to proceed with their submission.
Please proceed to the next team. 070 will not be able to join. Please proceed.
Okay. Now coming on to the fourth team, that is 081. The next team in the run is 081. 081.
Team 44 with us. Both the members of
081. Can you hear me?
इसीलिए तो ये सारे बोल रहे हैं, ये सब वो लोग सुन रहे हैं, आगे वाले भी सुन रहे हैं.
Team 081. Can you hear me? Team 081B, can you turn your camera on? Yes.
44A
can you say something?
44B. Kindly turn on your microphone.
Okay, you are not audible. Yes, now you are audible. So, here is a partner.
I think she may join in a second.
Sure, that's fine.
Joined.
So, she has joined. So, you are 081A. Can you hear us? And please turn your camera on.
And that last time over slide will be there. Thank you.
Please turn your camera on 081A. Please turn your camera on 081A. Yes, so you may begin, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Please.
Thank you, sir. Recently, the Parliament passed the Citizenship Amendment Bill 2019, which seeks to amend the Citizenship Act of 1955 by various ways. The bill provides that Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis, and Christians from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan who entered India on or before December 31st, 2014 will not be treated as illegal migrants. In order to get this benefit, they must also have been exempted from the Foreigners Act 1946 and the Passport Entry into India Act 1920 by the central government. On acquiring citizenship, such persons will be deemed to be the citizens of India from the date of their entry into India, and all the legal proceedings against them in respect of their illegal migration or citizenship will be closed. The provisions on citizenship will not apply to the tribal areas of Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura included in the 6th schedule of the Constitution. Further, it will not apply to the areas or to the inner line areas notified under the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation 1873. Currently, this permit system is applicable to Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Manipur. The bill adds ground for cancellation or registration that if the OCI has violated the provisions of any of the act or of any other law, then it will get cancelled, and the orders for cancellation of OCI should not be passed till the OCI cardholder is given an opportunity to be heard. As far as the constitutionality of the amendment is concerned, it is perfectly valid because the defense of the bill rests on three main grounds. First is the parent countries for the illegal migrants have state religion, and second, the illegal immigrants to be benefited were persecuted for their religious beliefs. And last is the Article 14 allows a classification that is founded on an intelligible differentia, provided differentia has a direct nexus to the object sought to be achieved by the statute in question. In the statement of objects and reasons, the bill says that the constitutions of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh provide for Islamic religion. As a result, many persons belonging to the Muslim non-Muslim communities have faced persecution on the grounds of religion in those countries. This means that the bill prepares the ground that the fear of religious persecution exists only for those who do not profess a religion as adopted by the countries as the state religion. This statement forms the basis of intelligible differentiation for non-Muslim immigrants, and it creates a constitutional basis and legal basis for Muslim immigrants who stayed in India and who entered in India without valid documents. Further, according to the government, this bill aims at granting someone citizenship rather than taking away. It has assured that the government will examine the application from any of the community on a case-to-case basis. This bill will come as a big boon to all those people who have been the victims of partition and subsequent conversion of the three countries into theocratic Islamic republics. Neighboring countries like Sri Lanka and Myanmar have not been included because the government has already clarified that the process of awarding citizenship to refugees had been undertaken by the government, by different governments in the past on case-to-case basis from time to time on reasonable qualifications to Article 14. In January 2019, the government notified a high-level committee for implementation of Clause 6 of Assam Accord and urged the committee to submit the report at the earliest to the central government for effective steps to be taken to fulfill the provisions of the accord. The government thus has assured the people of Assam that the linguistic, cultural, and social identity would be preserved. Hence, India has always opened its door to persecuted populations, be it Parsis, Tibetan refugees, or Jews. India has become a home for every sect that has faced religious persecution in its home countries. In that light, the recent amendment proposed in the Citizenship Act 1955 is in fact a ray of hope for those who persecuted in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. They are the cultural children of India and they cannot be allowed to suffer any further. Thank you.
I would like to present. 73 words preamble of India outlines the ideals and the guide of Indian democracy. The main feature of preamble is justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. But every feature has been compromised in some way in the past, and once again, by passing the bill, the parliament compromised the basic structure of Indian constitution. Good morning, judges. I'm here to present why CAA is not only unequal, unsecular, unconstitutional, but also a severe attack on Indian constitution. CAA is an assault on Constitution's basic structure, secularism. Since Supreme Court identified certain basic features in Keshwanand Bharti versus State of Kerala 1974, the secularism has always been regarded as the core feature of the Constitution. Further, NRC and CAA discriminates the people on basis of religion. CAA gives an eligibility to Indian citizenship to illegal immigrants who are Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Jain, Parsis, and Christians from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh who came to India before 2015. CAA ignores the minorities from the Tibet, Myanmar, and Sri Lanka, and also the Hazaras and Ahmitas. So the question brings us: what about the laws for the other neighboring countries which are non-Islam states like Sri Lanka? Which gives us the point that religion has been used as the criteria for the Indian citizenship. CAA violates the Constitution's secular principle and violates the Article 13, 14, 15, 16 and Article 21. People like you and me clearly have no effect of CAA citizenship because we were born in India and our ancestors were from India. We have Aadhaar cards and driving licenses, but there are people who actually got affected from this act and their existence was made questionable. As my opposition argued, that they are not taken away their citizenship, rather they are giving them citizenship. But my question brings to the point is, how are they giving them citizenship? By checking the verified documents and by witnesses. But according to a research, there are 23 crore people in India who cannot write or read. Their documents were lost while in the floods and national calamities. They are so poor they cannot even inherit a property. They misplace the documents and even can't get a copy. There are women who are vulnerable who change their names after marriages and do not even have the basic documents to prove their existence. And the implementation is not limited to India, but also the people who are living outside the India. They may face deposition because we enacted the CAA in our own country. They may face the CAA as the other countries may say that they can go back to their homeland India. The other point is that India has always been welcoming the refugees from the another neighboring country. So some people like Afghan Muslims, due to political and religious issues, cannot go back to their countries. They cannot be deported by our government, and so they will be forced to live an undignified life. Citizenship is open for no discrimination, like since a long time and without the race or culture, etc. And it has been the most revolutionary radical for the Indian Constitution. So coming after a decade, it's an achievement for India and a matter of pride. And CAA attempts to crush the idea of the greatest achievement we have. Therefore, at the end, I would like to say government has empowered us by Article 11, Part 2 of the Constitution to enact the laws pertaining to citizenship as it thinks fit. However, Article 13, Part 3 restricts the parliamentaries to make laws which are derogating to fundamental rights. An amendment is violative of Part 3 of the Constitution. Thank you.
Anchor, you can please take over.
Team 50 will join us soon, and after the team.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for joining. We can move to the next team now. That is team 046. Team 046, please raise your hands. So this is the last team, that is the fifth team, 046.
Sorry to interrupt, respected gentlemen.
Team 046, can you hear?
Sir, for the time being, we are ejecting.
Team
043 to let it.
Team 046, can you hear us? Please turn the camera on. Both of A and B, please turn the camera on. Yes. The other participant, please turn your camera on.
Okay.
So for the time being,
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but we cannot see you right now.
Okay.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible. So
Yeah, now am I visible?
yes, now you're visible. So you may proceed now. You may begin now.
52-year-old Kamala Devi left Sialkot, Pakistan way back in 2006 with husband Kala Ram and 4 children, including 2 daughters. She lost her eldest son recently, who was shouldering the family responsibility. As the husband is a senior citizen, financial responsibility now lies with Kamala Devi. She earns ₹6 from stitching 1 football per day. Such is the plight of thousands of religiously persecuted minorities who now view India as their last glimmer of hope. Respected judges, good morning. I am 46A and I will speak in favor of the motion, while my partner 46B will speak against it. As it is rightly said by the famous author and political activist Helen Keller, that although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming of it. One of the best examples is the passing of Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. The CAA was passed by the Parliament of India on 11th of December 2019. It amended the original Act of 1955 by providing an alleyway to the Indian citizenship for the people of Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan who are Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhist, Jew, Parsis, or Christian and arrived in India before 31st of December 2014. This act was the first time that religion has been voraciously used as a criteria to give citizenship of India. The detection, deletion, and deportation policy of BJP has always been on their agenda since 1996, and the commitment of Narendra Modi government towards it has led to the passage of CAA Act. A report by India Today Group well explains the plight of the illegal migrants, and one of them enumerates her plight. She says, Hindus are subjected to atrocities, religious and racial discrimination. Our children are forced to sit on separate benches in Pakistani government schools. We are not allowed to perform our religious rites. In short, I would like to say that CAA is too little compassion coming too late. Over to you.
The Citizenship Amendment Act seeks to amend the Citizenship Act 1955 to make Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jain, Parsis, and Christian illegal immigrants from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh eligible for citizenship of India. The legislation applies to those who were forced or compelled to seek shelter in India due to persecution on the grounds of religion. I mainly have these two following points against the CAA, which I think are perfectly rational. This act is against Muslims as it categorically targets them. Ergo, the religious cornerstone of citizenship not only flies in the face of the principles of secularism, but also of liberalism, equality, and justice. It fails to sanction Shia, Balochi, and Ahmadiyya Muslims from Pakistan and Hazaras in Afghanistan who also face persecution to apply for citizenship. The CAA will not proffer to those persecuted in Myanmar and Sri Lanka, from where these Rohingya Muslims and Tamils are staying in our country as refugees, number one. Number two, the Citizenship Amendment Act violates Article 14 of the Constitution of India, which guarantees the right to equality.
The CAA not only demands well-grounded classification and a plausible and a just object to be achieved for any classification to be illicit, but also requires every such classification to be non-arbitrary. This act is a typical manifestation of class legislation, as classification on the ground of religion is not permissible. Over to you, partner.
Okay, you kept your points well, but I can sense a feeling of ambiguity in your arguments. So I would like to counter your arguments one by one. First, you spoke about divisive and discriminatory nature of the Act by saying that the Act narrows the scope of granting citizenship to only Hindus, Jains, Sikhs, Parsis, Buddhists, and Christians. But the fact is that CAA deals with persecution on religious lines in our 3 neighboring countries, where the Constitution provides for a specific state religion. The Act is very focused and provides a remedy for a particular situation to particular people. The point is, CAA has never stopped any foreigner of any country for applying for the Indian citizenship. Even Balochis and Ahmadiyya can apply for Indian citizenship as and when they fulfill the qualifications provided in the relevant sections of the Citizenship Act 1955. Also, India has provided citizenship to over 4.6 lakh Tamilians through the government agreements in 1964 and 1974. Presently, approx 95,000 Sri Lankan Tamils are staying in Tamil Nadu on the grants given to them by the central and the state government. I would like to clearly state that CAA is perfectly legal and constitutional. Under Article 246 of the Constitution, Parliament has got the exclusive power to make laws with respect to any matter listed in the 7th Schedule, List 1. In that, Item 17 is to do with citizenship and naturalization of aliens. Therefore, only Parliament has the right to legislate on the matter of citizenship. Article 14 that you refer to says equality before law and equal representation before law. But the Supreme Court has got more than a dozen judgments where they say that if there is a reasonable classification of groups who form a class by themselves, then the legislation will be valid. Here, the persecuted group based on faith of 6 communities from the 3 neighboring countries which are declared Islamic form that reasonable classification. Over to you.
All right. The Act gives the impression of violating the Assam Accord both in letter and spirit. The Assam Accord, signed between the then-led Rajiv Gandhi central government and the All Assam Students Union, had fixed March 24, 1971 for the cutoff date for foreign immigrants. Those illegally entering Assam after this fixed date were to be clapped eyes on and expatriated, irrespective of their religion. The CAA moved the cutoff date for 6 religions to December 31, 2014, something that is not acceptable to the Assamese-speaking people in Brahmaputra Valley, who stick out that all illegal immigrants should be treated as illegal. Now, I would like to conclude by verbalizing that the Parliament has unfragmentable powers to make laws for the country when it comes to citizenship. But the opposition and other political parties allege that this act by the government violates some of the basic features of the Constitution, like secularism and equality. It may reach the doors of the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court will be the endmost interpreter. If it violates the constitutional features and goes ultra-vires, it will be struck down. If not, we will continue to have the law. But one most cardinal thing is an equipoise has to be attained by the government, as this involves neighboring countries too. Any exaggerated essay to host the migrants should not be at the cost of goodwill earned over the years. India, being a land of myriad customs and traditions, and the acceptor of faiths and the chaperone of persecuted in the past, should always uphold the principles of secularism going forward. So, hoping for the best, that is all. Thank you.
I thank both the participants of Team 046 and I request them that they can leave the room and wait for the decision. The team members of slot 3, a very good morning to all present here. We have respected judges, Dr. Gurjeet Singh, and respected advocate Mr. Anil Mehta, and all the participants from various law institutions of India. I would especially thank all the judges to spare their precious time with us, and I request all the participants not to leave the virtual debate room and to stay here until their turn comes. Center for Legal Studies at Geetarathan International Business School encourages healthy discussion and exchange of ideas among students and provides them the platform to voice out their opinions on current national as well as global issues and exploring various solutions to the crisis. Before moving forward for the preliminary round of the third session, I would like to present the general guidelines and working of the virtual debate competition. In this virtual debate competition, there will be draw of lots to decide the order in which the teams will be coming up to enter the virtual room to present their debate. During the debate, time left will be shown on the screen at two intervals. Firstly, when there will be 3 minutes left, and secondly, when the time will get over. The total time allotted for each team will be 8 minutes, and the teams shall decide the time limit of the speaker 1 and speaker 2. But the minimum time for a speaker is 2 minutes. Speaker 1 will debate for the motion, and speaker 2 will debate on against the motion. Rebuttals will be included in 8 minutes given to each team. The team score will be calculated by adding both the team members' individual score. The language for the debate competition shall be English only, and the use of webcam or any face camera while speaking is mandatory for every participant. Reading from any written document is prohibited, and if it is observed by the judges or the organizer, then the team shall be disqualified. Usage of any abusive language or any obscene language shall implicate immediate disqualification of candidature. Center for Legal Studies at Geetarathan International Business School shall have sole discretion to access penalties or to disqualify teams for any failure in abiding by of any of the foregoing rules. All team members must refrain from disclosing the identity of their institution at any time and in any manner during the entire competition. Non-compliance with this rule shall result in immediate disqualification of the team. The decision of CLS Gibbs in this regard shall be final and binding. Now moving forward to the debate competition, first of all we'll have the draw of lots, and for the third slot we're starting with the first team, and the first team coming out to be is 3NDC 037. I repeat, 3NDC 037. The second team to be coming out will be 3NDC 073. 3NDC 073. Thirdly, the next team will be team 071. That will be team 071. For the fourth team, we have team 033. Fourth team will be 033. And the last team, fifth team for this slot will be team 074. I repeat, the teams are, first team will be 037, second 073, third 071, fourth 033, and fifth 074. I would request the first team, that are the members of team 3NDC 037, to please enter and start with the debate competition. I would also like to seek the permission of the judges to start.
Yes, please start.
Thank you, sir. I would like the participants of team 037 to please enter and start and proceed with their submission.
Team 037. Okay, team 037, please turn your camera on.
It's alright. It's alright.
Team 037A and B, please turn your cameras on.
Yes, sure, sir. Sorry to make you wait for a minute, sir.
Okay,
There
yeah.
was some issue.
Yeah, please.
Am I audible and visible, sir?
Yes, very much.
You're audible. Please begin. Yeah.
Oh. Thank you. I would like to start. No one leaves their home with the intention to never come back. As well quoted by Eliza Johnston, that sorry, there's an issue for a minute. Sorry, sir. Sorry, I would like to start again. No one leaves home with the intention to never come back. But as stated by Eliza Johnston, that refugees are you and I only, but with different circumstances. Good morning, members of the jury. This is Kaushik Kapoor, and I'm here to grab your attention for a few minutes in favor of the motion CAA. On 14th August, street pleads green and white. We hear the words Pakistan Zindabad. On 15th August, street pleads green and white and orange. We hear the words Jai Hind. In 1947, a train pleads red and red and red. We hear the words Pakistan Zindabad. We hear the words Jai Hind. On 11th August 1947, Muhammad Ali Jinnah told Pakistanis that you are free in a state of Pakistan. On 14th August, Jawaharlal Nehru told the nation that on the stroke of midnight, you will awake to the life and freedom. The 1947 year can be largely defined as the year to desire for freedom, but the freedom was something in itself. It was hazy. It did not know its own borders. The freedom was something to never recognize in its own reflection. But I'm here to tell you, honorable judges, that let us not deny the history while speaking about the present scenario of CAA. We all know that partition was not something which was pre-planned. It was all immediately. It was the most bloodiest partition. About 12 million people were crossing the borders. 1.5 million were killed in the religious violence. About 75,000 women were raped and disfigured and dismembered. Mass abductions were made for the children, and there were forced conversions. Moving on, we still hope that the refugees who got stuck and were never able to made are living in a peaceful citizenship under the so-called secular provision of the constitution of these three countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. But unfortunately, that was not the case. I will show you the evidences that they were living in persecution and discrimination. In Bangladesh, from 23%, they fall down to 8% from 1951 to 2011. Afghanistan makes less than 0.3% of the population. In a US report 2018, it was mentioned that only 700 Muslims, there are only 700 Hindus and 6 are left. But we could pity on the sad history and the horrendous treatment done to these refugees for the past 70 years. But what we can do now is accept the past and do something in the present so that these unfortunate people lead a life with dignity and at least they are considered as citizens in the country. I thank God when Citizenship Amendment Act was announced. I thank him that justice was delayed but not denied. It was a very good thing that the only intention of the CAA was to protect the persecution from the persecution and discrimination to the minorities done in these three countries. As Mahatma Gandhi also said that Hindus and Sikhs were never able to come. They can come. And even Manmohan Singh said that in his leading speech that if these people are feeling that they're being persecuted and discriminated, they have the right to come back to the country and lead a normal life. In my conclusion, I would like to say that CA was just a promise by our leaders, which is fulfilled now. I regret the partition of India, but I do not regret the independence of the nation. I regret the pathetic conditions they were living in, but I do not regret that they are now being allotted the citizenship. And I appreciate the fact that peoples who are now aware with the human rights and they consider themselves as human rights champion, but where were these human rights champions when they were living from the past 70 years in hell? As Martin Luther King says, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice where. Let us make a distinction. Let us make a distinction between our illegal immigrants and bona fide refugees. Let us not confuse the concept of secularism with state sovereignty. Let us not forget that these refugees are the victims and not the accused. Thank you.
Your time is running. Please start. 037.
I would start my arguments by saying that, unlike Britain, the Parliament of India is not sovereign. Its powers are not unqualified. Its powers are limited by the provisions which are given in Part 3. And if any law is against the Part 3, it shall be held void then and there. Also, according to Article 14, it says that there is a positive obligation on the state to grant the equality to all and not just citizens of India. And according to the test of reasonable classification, which was held by Honorable Supreme Court in the case Budhan Singh versus State of Bihar 1955, if any law is against such classification, if any law is against Article 14, it can operate. And such classification says that there should be a rational relation of the concerned law with its objective, and there should be a distinguishing factor with the law to the groups, people or groups which are in that group from the group which do not have such same people or things. Also, if we take that as an objective, that it protects the people who from the countries who have a specific state religion, then it's purely unconstitutional, because it do not have the countries like Sri Lanka and Bhutan, which actually has a specific state religion, and people are being heavily persecuted there. Also, it leaves behind the communities important communities such as Ahmadiyas from Pakistan, Hazras from Afghanistan, Jews, Antagonists, and atheists from these modern countries, which are itself in this act. Also, it only protects the people who are apparently in the world media and who are apparently visible, and not to others. It is also senseless on the part of this act to say that we will only provide the protection to the people who have entered after a specific date and not to other people, as it is also purely constitutional. Hence, it do not qualifies any of the objectives with the rational relation of the law. It is unconstitutional. Your Excellency, I'm done with my arguments.
Thank you so much.
For a minute, can I ask the rebuttal from Mr. Siddharth? What is the take on under Article 11 of the Constitution?
Before coming to the Article 11, I would come to Article 5, which says that the citizenship should only be granted on the basis of
Okay, I would thank both the members of the team for their submissions and would request them to please kindly wait for the total decisions of these judges and please exit the team. Next team to be heard is KNDC 073. I would like the three members of team 073 to please proceed with their submissions.
Okay, so what is the next team code, please?
The next team will be team 073.
So
We are trying to
okay. So 073, please raise your hand.
I think due to some connectivity issues, from that side only. The issue is still existing. So one second, I'm looking now. So for the timing, I'll.
Team code 073. Please turn your cameras on. Team code 073.
Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, you are.
And am I visible also?
No, you are not visible to us right now.
Please confirm if I am visible.
Yeah, perfectly visible.
Thank you so much.
Please turn your audio and video on. 073B. Please turn your video on. Yes, perfect.
We shall start now.
Both the team members, please start.
Yeah, very good afternoon to the respected jury members. So my team code is team code 73 and I am the team code 73A. So I will be speaking for the motion, not talking about the Citizenship Amendment Act in itself. When we consider the name of itself and we take an inference from it, it clearly indicates that it is an act which is providing citizenship to someone and it is not taking away citizenship from someone. And the main reason why the Citizenship Amendment Act was implemented was the need of the people, not due to the due to interference of media and opposition. The main objective and reasons of the act have not been highlighted enough by the media. So I will be framing my arguments in three basic forms. That is, first I will be talking about the objectives and reasons, second I will be talking about the constitutionality, and the third will be that I will be talking about if the CAA is connected with NRC or NPR or any other provisions for that record. So now when we talk about the main objectives and reasons of CAA, the very first objective of the reasons is that that when we talk about the history of India, there was trans-border immigration from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So that was the main reason why these three countries have been included in it. And the minority section, the persons who have been facing religious persecution have been considered as the minorities in these three countries because of the state religion that is present and the state religion that is Islam. And that is the main reason why Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Jain, Parsi and Christian are the communities that have been included as the minorities that are facing religious persecution. Not talking about the brief history as to why India has this obligation on itself to call upon these immigrants and give them the right to stay here. That is because first of the Delhi Pact, or as it is more commonly known as the Nehru-Ilayat Pact. So that is the very main reason, and it was an act which was signed just after the partition in 1950 that recognized that yes, both the states that they will function together to protect the rights of the minorities. So that was the main reason, but due to the wrong implementation, and I must say that due to no implementation of this law by Pakistan, that was the main reason why India had to take this step, because it is in our soul to protect the rights of the people. Not talking about the third basic reason. So the people who have entered India, either like they have to take citizenship or either thing, because they don't have any travel documents, or if they had any travel documents, they have expired. So they had to, if they have to take citizenship, they have to go under Section 5 or Section 6 of the Citizenship Act. Now, in order to go under Section 5 or Section 6 of the Act, they must not be an illegal immigrant. That is where they are being stopped. And if in order to go for that is where they are being stopped, and that is where the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019 comes into place, where it says that illegal immigrants recognized from these communities will not be considered as illegal immigrants and can be given the citizenship status. And in the past orders, before the act was even introduced, there were provisions which were made to provide long-term visas to these people whose visas had expired or who didn't have any travel document. And and two major points which no one ever covered, which are covered in the objectives and reasons, are that the OCI card holders, the two provisions regarding OCI card holders are also mentioned, that there must be a proper hearing mechanism for the OCI card holders in case of any complaint that they are violating any of the law and that they are violating the provisions of this act in itself. So these two provisions have also been added. Now coming to the second leg of my argument, that is the constitutionality. Now when we talk about the constitutionality of any law, it can be considered that a law is constitutional when there is a when the legislation has the power to make laws, and second, that that there is no violation of any constitutional provision. So when we talk about Article 14, Article 14 can be proved using the two test rule, that is the reasonable classification and intelligible differentia. When we talk about the main objective of this act, that is to protect the minorities that are facing discrimination due to the state religion. And when we talk about the reasonable classification, they consider a class in itself. And when we talk about the intelligible, that the rational differentia, that is the geographical differentiation that has been created. Now when we talk about the Article 14, the right to equality, equality does not mean that it needs to be a mathematical equality. Equality can be maintained in many different ways. And the Supreme Court in the past itself, for example, if we consider the case of reservation, has considered that whenever we consider a class, we go into the history that why as to this class has to be included. And when we go to the history, we can see that when partition occurred, there was persecution of these minorities when they went to Pakistan or any other country. And answering the question that as to why Afghanistan has been included, and it is in the history of Afghanistan, that in India itself, that there was trans-border migration. When we talk about Sri Lanka, if we talk about current situation, the current situation is that after the civil war, the situation has improved a lot. And when the situation was worse, India had provided citizenship to those citizens as well. And when we talk about the Ahmadiyas and other sects that are not being included, it is not that. So that is because Pakistan has the state religion Islam. And that is the main reason why it is the responsibility of the Pakistan to protect the rights of the people. And it includes the rights to protect the minorities belonging to that religion. But since there is an existence of a state religion, so that state religion does not protect the rights of Hindus, Jains, etc. That is the main reason why we have to protect them. And talking about how Article 15 in itself is applicable only to the citizens, and until and unless the citizenship is acquired, Article 15 does not come into the play. Talking about the basic structure, if we go into the wordings of the Keshavananda Bharati case, then it is clearly mentioned that the basic structure doctrine was implemented so that the basic structure of the constitution cannot be amended by an amendment in the constitution itself. We cannot consider that basic structure is violated by any other law. Yes, though there have been certain judgments which say that a law in isolation, which is not the amendment of the constitution, can be in violation of basic structure, but then again it depends upon circumstances and the interpretation of the judge. That is the main reason that the basic structure doctrine is only applicable to the amendment of the constitution. And talking about concluding with the main point that it is the obligation of the state under the Foreigners Act that any illegal immigrant must be any proceedings must be started. And when we talk about the CA, its objective, the CA is providing them immunity that no proceedings will take place. Thank you so much. And last point to mention, the NPR, the Citizenship Amendment, that the Citizenship Act before the amendment also contained the provision under Section 14A subclause 2 that a national population register can be considered. And the national population register is important so that we know that who are the citizens who all constitute the population of India, and so that the schemes could be formulated accordingly. And as clearly mentioned, NRC and NPR are something which are very different. Thank you.
So time is over there.
Sir, if we just may please allow the second speaker also to speak.
I'm sorry, that's not possible.
Sir, sir, please 2 minutes if the judge's discretion. I'm so sorry, sir. I was.
That's not possible.
Sir,
but yeah,
sir,
judges can
sir,
hear
actually,
if they want to.
Sir, yeah, sir. Actually, the I don't know due to certain I don't know network issues. I was not able to like the screen was not visible to me. Please, sir.
According to the rules, your time is over.
Now coming on to the next team, that is the third team, team 071. I would like the participants of the previous team to please wait for the decision kindly and
thank you, team 073.
Like just in sir, if like a chance can be provided to the second citizen, sir, because I was not able to see.
So